In Beijing, a man has a meeting with an unseen figure. He has wasted half of his life working for psychopaths at AIM, and this man would like to buy himself out of it with some stolen tech so he can live comfortably in peace. The buyer confirms that this technology is real, and Madame Masque is pleased at this. The man asks for his money. He gets a bullet in his head. Tony should have done this years ago, but he got so busy, saving the world, avenging, guarding, putting out fires, both metaphorical and very real, learning that his parents aren't really his parents. And meanwhile, his suit is becoming common, pedestrian. Some kid at MIT reverse engineered it on a dare and posted the schematics online. Tony is supposed to be so ahead of the curve that nobody can even see where he's going. And now, he's falling behind. It's his fault. He promised himself he'd spend some time in the shop every week. He failed to keep that promise. That's going to change. He needs this time, alone in the shop. It makes him a better man. Tony's armor needs to grow and evolve. It needs to surprise everyone and be something they can all count on. He's had these new ideas rolling around for months, and it's finally ready. Stark looks on at his latest armor. It merges all past modes and models into one suit that will change shape and color scheme based on the mission in question. It is completely attached to his brain synapses, responding to his every whim. Tony wants to take it out on a test drive, but he is stopped by his gal, Friday. His new holographic interface reminds Tony that the suit needs at least 3 hours to charge before its first run, and he has a date very soon, with a woman named Dr. Amara Pereira. She's a Sri Lankan biophysicist that he met in Delhi. Tony liked her when they met at a conference there, so he promptly gets ready for the date. In typical Stark fashion, he reserves an entire restaurant for their dinner. Amara arrives and says that she doesn't need big stunts like this to impress her. Tony admits this isn't a stunt. He did this just to ensure privacy, as Stark can be far too recognizable to enjoy a quiet evening in a crowded public restaurant. Meanwhile, Madame Masque stages a robbery at the Stark Tower in Japan. She escapes security by jumping out of a building. Back in New York, Tony has taken Amara to his balcony, and they begin to talk. She still isn't impressed, but Tony says he's still not trying to impress her. If he was, he'd have Thor accidentally stop by. Assuming that's a joke, Amara says that if he did that, she'd probably just leave immediately. Tony replies that this woman actually intimidates him. It's a rare feeling for Stark, but her work is incredibly advanced. So Tony asks how many inventions she has that would change the world, but society simply isn't ready for. Inventions that would be reverse engineered and used in the worst way possible. Tony has many of these, and Amara admits she has one too. A cure for the mutant gene. The cure would do no harm to the host, but Amara is well aware of the staggering moral implications of such a thing, comparing it to a cure for Judaism. She says that the crazy thing is, she didn't even mean to do it. The woman just saw one of those lunatic evangelists ranting about mutants and how he wished there was a cure for them, and within hours, she found one. Tony is blown away by this, impressed at the woman's ingenuity. Amara says she never even wrote down the details, as she didn't want anybody else to find it in the event of her death. But Stark points out this isn't good enough. In a world of psychics, spies, mutants, and industrial espionage, even your own mind isn't safe. Tony offers to help the woman out with this. The two share a moment of silence, and Tony leans in to kiss her, but Amara stops him. He is shocked that she wants to take things slow and says he's not used to that. Suddenly, Friday appears before the two with some important news. Whitney Frost, also known as Madame Masque, is back, and she was last spotted robbing Castle Doom in broad daylight. The temporary regime of Latveria is not cooperating, so Tony apologizes to his guest and gets ready to head out. Tony arrives in Latveria with no sign of Whitney. Friday reminds Stark that this nation has become unstable ever since Doom lost control of the country. Tony finds 27 armed men nearby and tries to talk to them about the theft. However, they do not speak his language and are not cooperative. As the men threaten Stark, they suddenly fall to the ground from a massive sonic attack. Tony's armor protected him, but he wasn't the cause of that blast of sonic energy. A figure approaches him from behind. He says he is pleased to see Tony, as he was going to try and reach out to the Futurist anyways, but now Stark is here, right in front of him. The man says they're both in a very unique position and need to help one another. Tony doesn't recognize the figure, but he knows that voice. Friday examines the stranger with every bioscan they have and comes to a shocking conclusion. This is Victor Von Doom. Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and this is my recap and review of Invincible Iron Man #1. And here we have our first post-Secret Wars comic, which is weird considering how we still aren't actually done with Secret Wars, but whatever. It's fun to be back in the Marvel Universe in this comic. This was great. I didn't know what to expect out of this one. I wasn't even planning on covering it, really. But after reading this, I'm so glad that I did. Brian Michael Bendis is taking over this series, and though it had me worried a little bit, this writer always felt like a good fit for Iron Man. His dialogue-heavy writing works well with Tony Stark, who's always been a pretty big talker himself, and Bendis feels like a natural fit in this comic. It was a really amazing job overall, and while I wasn't sure I'd like David Marquez's art style based on the previews for this comic, it actually works really well once you see it going. Everything in this comic looks and feels amazing, and I'm really eager to see what comes next. What's remarkable is that this story feels like it does a really good job at launching this new series, but there's very little action. Most of our time is spent showing off Tony's new armor, setting up some very interesting stuff in Latveria, and building things up with Madame Masque's return. Tony and Whitney have a very long and unique history together, so that's bound to be quite the story as it unfolds. But the vast majority of this comic discards all of that in favor of showing us Tony on a date. I find that okay actually, as it works in an Iron Man comic and feels quite appropriate overall. I like Amara too. She's a cool new character who's going to be a great addition to the story as somebody who is intellectually on the same level as Stark. That's great, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of her. I also like how they brought in Friday from the Age of Ultron movie, and I think that will be a solid addition to the world of Iron Man. And then there's that ending. Oh man, is that surprising. I'm really not sure what's going on here because we don't know exactly how Secret Wars is going to end. But that was a cool twist. What happens to Doom, how he lost control of his country, and how his appearance was restored is all a big mystery right now, and I'm really excited to find out what exactly this all means. This was a great start to a new series, and I recommend you check out this comic for yourself. Let me know what you guys think of it in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.